What's up, y'all? It's 10-3 time in Tennessee. How are you? Hope you're well. Wes Rucker here coming to you from the 10 Streaming Center, or as I still want to call it, 10 Streamafeller Plaza, but no one will yet allow me to call it that, even unofficially, which is why I don't know why I just said it, because, again, they don't love that. But, again, every day that we're in here, there's new things that are being done in this magnificent studio. We got another wall of lights over here on the left. So now 3 of the 4 lights, the ones that you would see on camera at different times, are the ones that have lights on them now. And, of course, I was in here when the engineering team had just finished it up. You know, they just kind of, caulked everything, ran all the wires, tested everything, put the lights in there. And immediately, just for fun, I walked in and said, "Oh, it's great, guys. When are we going to have lights on that other wall?" And then tried to get out of the building or out of the room before I got punched in the face. Hope you're doing well this Thanksgiving. If you're already on the road, hope you're safe. Hope you got where you're getting. If you're going on the road later today, again, be safe because it's all right if you're late. It's not all right if you're hurt. So get there. Don't be drinking and driving. Don't be foolish. Go out there. Enjoy your family. Have a good time. That's what this is all about. Got another new producer in here. Actually, you've met him before. He was in here briefly as, I guess, shadowing, you might call it, last week at some point. But now he's in here flying solo. We got Justin Wallace. What's up, Justin?
Hello. How's it going?
You doing all right today? Show everybody your face.
Okay, I got to find the right button here. There we go.
There we go. What's up, everybody? There's Justin on the ones and twos for us today. And hopefully everything will go smoothly. I bet it will. And if it won't, it will be my fault because I also have buttons over here. And I am known to occasionally hit them poorly. In fact, just before, I'm not kidding, guys. Just before we hit the record button today and we went live to all of you out there listening right now and watching and all those things, right before we did that, I started messing with the knob on this microphone right here that you're looking at, or if you're listening that you're hearing me talk from. And I probably shouldn't have, because I think it probably just messes with the colors on it, but I don't 100% know that. So if it's a bit high or a bit low while you're listening live, we'll get that sorted and we'll clean it up for post. But if it's not that way that it needs to be live, that's my fault. I started playing with buttons. I can't help it. There is a reason that I take my keys and I make sure I put them on a hook in my desk way over there. Because if I don't, I 100% will jingle them as we're doing this. You'll notice me tapping a pen too. Try really hard not to do that. I fidget with stuff. Cannot help it. So hopefully everything gets squared away there. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today on this Thanksgiving Eve. And quickly, before we do that, get in questions now, because tomorrow morning, Thanksgiving morning, I'll be coming in the morning with Maddie Mad Dog, and she and I will be going through a mailbag episode, essentially, because we want to have fresh content for Thursday and Friday. We really want to have fresh content every weekday at least, but it's hard to get everybody scheduled in for the right time to do everything live on those days. And the people behind the scenes here have earned their time off and they need it. And I want them to go have that. So what we're going to do is record a couple things in the morning. There'll be mailbag stuff. So get those to me there on the socials, Wes Rucker TBA on Twitter or X. Shout out to whoever stole Wes Rucker WBIR. That was taken the very first day I was hired here. Literally the first day that I was hired here. You know what I should have done? Should have just gone ahead and taken that before the deal was announced. Although that would have sort of let the cat out of the bag, I still should have done that. That was a mistake. My bad. So the search for a permanent new X Twitter handle continues. You can also go to Wes Rucker at Blue Sky. If you're over there, you can send questions there, and we will get them answered for you. We'll give you a shout-out on the program while we're doing it. We'll have a little bit of fun while we're doing it also. Lots of stuff to discuss on the show today. We will get to some football. It's Tennessee Vanderbilt week. And as you heard us talk about yesterday, or I guess Tuesday if you're listening now on a Wednesday, that was the main point, I think, that we went over yesterday. It is Tennessee Vanderbilt week. It's the biggest, arguably the biggest football game in Vanderbilt history. It's the biggest Tennessee Vanderbilt game, I suppose, of my lifetime. It's got to be. I mean, Vanderbilt in its history has never won 10 games, not once, not a single time. And it has a chance to do that if it beats Tennessee on Saturday at Neyland Stadium. And on top of that, has a chance to go to the college football playoff. Tennessee most likely does not. But again, weirder things have happened. It's not a 0.0% chance. It basically is. It's basically zero. It's less than 1.0%. Somewhere above zero or higher than zero, lower than 1. That's about where the percentage chance is. A lot of chaos would have to happen. And even then, I don't think Tennessee would have enough wins on the resume that were good wins. Because, again, Vandy would be the best win. What would be the second best win? At Mississippi State, maybe? I mean, Florida's better than the record indicates. And some people still metrically have that as like a top 40-ish team. It just has the toughest schedule that I've ever seen and is 3-8. So that is problematic. That's just the good thing when you have a schedule that breaks your way is that there's fewer opportunities to trip yourself up. The bad news is you got to win the big ones. You have to win the big ones because there's not many of them, and you don't have many chances to get them. And if you don't get them, you're in the position that you're going to be in right now if you're Tennessee. But going to talk a lot about basketball in this edition. What a game last night from Rick Barnes and his Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee, again, the stakes were not the same as they were last year against Houston in the Elite Eight, but the 17th ranked Vols did get their vengeance over the third ranked Houston Cougars out there in Vegas, 76-73. A fantastic basketball game. What we got in that game was closer to maybe what I thought last season's Elite Eight game would be. Now, I thought Houston would win that game last year, and I said it wouldn't surprise me if Houston won by double digits, but I thought it would be, for the most part, a pretty good game. And it wasn't. Houston just sort of did what Tennessee does and did it better and out-physical, bullied the Vols, pushed them around. You know what Tennessee did, though? Tennessee went and beefed up in the offseason. Tennessee's got a deeper roster. Tennessee has a significantly deeper front court. And it's interesting to me. First off, I've been saying for weeks that when Tennessee was ranked 23rd, I said there's not 22 teams better than this one. When Tennessee was ranked 20th, I said there's not 19 teams better than this one. When Tennessee was ranked 17th, I said there's not 16 teams better than this one. I was wrong about last week's football game. Got this one right. This one got right. But Tennessee physically handled itself well. And what's interesting, and I understand why some people took this the wrong way. I actually do. But early in the game, I said it's really interesting to see what happens when Tennessee plays one of the very few teams in college basketball that can be as physical as Tennessee is, with as much strength as Tennessee has. There's just not many teams out there in college basketball, and it's been that way for a few years. There's not many teams that physically are as tough and as powerful as Tennessee is. And again, sometimes you've seen teams be taller, but Rick Barnes doesn't care about that. He cares more about length than he does about height. Because really, if you think about basketball, right, put your hands up in the air. That's how tall you play. Put your hands out wide. That's how wide you play. So really more so than how tall you are, it's kind of what your effective wingspan is and what your standing reach is. That's what you are as a basketball player. That's essentially what you are. So, but Garrett Maidenwald, the job they do in the strength and conditioning program, Tennessee very, very rarely has teams that are as physically powerful as Tennessee is. There are a couple, though. Last year, Florida was, clearly. A couple years ago, Purdue was, clearly. I would say UConn was as well. We just didn't see that matchup. But we saw UConn play, and that's a pretty good guess. And this season, again, Houston is one of those teams that is, on paper and imposingly in person, as big and physical as Tennessee is. And when you are a team that physically overpowers most teams you play, even when Tennessee loses games, Tennessee rarely just gets punked. It's usually because Tennessee just doesn't make enough shots or something like that. We've all seen that, right? Or get into foul trouble, something like that. It's not usually Tennessee just got physically manhandled. Usually Tennessee's the one that's inflicting the physicality on the game. It's leaning on the opponent. And what happens when someone can hit you back? And I said it's like watching the schoolyard bully get popped in the mouth. And I said it's interesting, I think it's interesting, to see what the bully does when he gets punched in the mouth. Because the bully's usually out there strutting around, peacocking, out there on the playground, throwing balls at people, pushing people down, talking about their moms, getting in their face. And they're used to kind of being the alpha out there, physically. But then what happens when they get decked in the mouth? Sometimes, they just go down and stay down. And they're a paper tiger. Sometimes, they fight back. And then they win. Tennessee fought back and won. And I think some people were saying, oh, what do you got to say about him now? And my response was, guys, I said it would be interesting to see what happens. I didn't say they wouldn't do well. I said I want to see what happens now that a team more physical than them, or as physical as them, has punched them right in the mouth for the second time in a few months. I want to see how they respond to that. And you know what they did? They responded brilliantly. They took a Houston team. It's like looking in a mirror, like the old Spider-Man. Houston's not used to getting pushed. And Houston opened that game pushing pretty well. It also opened 4 of 6 from 3, and that's why I got that lead early. But if Houston's going to keep making threes at that clip, Tennessee wasn't winning the game. But Tennessee pushed back. Houston stopped making quite as many shots. Tennessee got more comfortable in the game. And all of a sudden, an 11-point deficit gets down to 10, gets down to 7, gets down to 6, quickly gets to within one possession, then goes back to 2 possessions at the break. And Tennessee keeps pushing, opens the half with a 3, gets things going, makes a lot of big plays. Houston keeps responding. Houston is a very, very good basketball team with a very, very good basketball coach. Kelvin Sampson and Rick Barnes, first off, it's a great story. These are 2 guys from tiny North Carolina colleges who played college ball against each other 50 years ago. Then they coached against each other at Oklahoma and Texas, now at, obviously, Tennessee and Houston. Like the love those guys have for each other and the similarities they have in the ways they run their programs. Their personalities are a little different, but their core beliefs in what they do, what they believe in with basketball, it's the same thing. They both run a lot of old school drills that a lot of new school coaches don't run anymore. They're not out there doing drills with cones. They're not out there doing combine tests. They're out there banging. That's what they believe in. Houston fought back. Houston kind of kept Tennessee at bay for a while. Then Tennessee goes on a brilliant defensive run. I think it was 7 minutes or so, give or take, that Houston went without a field goal, and just stuff that you don't normally see from that team. But Houston was also playing really good defense. So Tennessee's lead, when it took the lead, only got to like 5 or 6, I think 5 for a while. And Houston kept fighting back. Houston not once. The final 3 or 4 minutes of that game, the whole game was great. But the final 3 or 4 minutes of that game, unbelievable basketball. That was not a November basketball game. It looked a lot like what I thought last season's Elite Eight game would look like. Because Tennessee now physically, it doesn't just have the will to do it, to go bang with a team like Houston. It's got the depth to go do that. But even as Tennessee was pushing and trying to lean on them, and, there'd be times where Tennessee gets up by 5 or 6, and then Tennessee, gets up by 3 scores, I think, and all of a sudden, you're thinking, is Tennessee going to run away with this? Of course not. That's not how Houston is. That's not how that program's wired. Those dudes are tougher than cheapsteak. They kept coming back time and time again. Kingston Fleming's, that kid, Houston's got 2 lottery picks on that team. Didn't get to see the best of Senac Jr. yesterday, but did get to see the best of Kingston Fleming's. And that dude, that 6'4" point guard, oh, man, is he good. That dude, shot after shot after shot down the stretch, hitting deep threes, driving to the lane, spinning, diving, just everything he could do. And Uzan was hitting some big shots. Emmanuel Sharp, as he always does, hit some big shots. And Tennessee had to earn that. Like, every ounce of that win was earned. Houston will say it didn't play its best, and after shooting well early, it didn't have its best shooting game. But, guys, Tennessee shot 5 of 17 from 3 and beat one of the best teams in college basketball. Do I need to say that again? 5 of 17 from 3 beat one of the best teams in college basketball. You don't see that very often because Tennessee's 23 or 29 from the line. The rebounding numbers, pretty much negligible. Houston did get on the offensive glass more in the second half, and Tennessee's got to tighten that up. But, I mean, Jacoby Gillespie, and we're going to get on. We're going to get to Boswell too. Don't you worry. We're going to get to Bishop Boswell. We're going to talk a lot about Bishop Boswell. Down the stretch, Jacoby Gillespie in that game just said, "Let's go, fellas." Houston was not letting him breathe for most of that game. I think there was one play in the second half where he kind of went around a screen, and for the first time, it felt like all night, he had like a foot of space. Now, he was well behind the three-point line, well behind it. But he had a foot of space. The very first time it felt like all night. And what does he do? Rise, fire, splash from way beyond the arc. Just shows you give him a second of space. You give him 6 inches. Give him a foot. He's going to hurt you. And he made some big free throws down the stretch too. Because that's been a huge thing for Tennessee the past couple of years. In those close games, Zakai Ziegler, the way he could handle the ball, not turn it over, get to the free throw line, make his free throws, that stuff, that's worth its weight in gold late in the game. That's your point guard has got to be a good free throw shooter. Got to be. Because what are you trying to do there? You're trying to put the ball in the hands of your best ball handler. So teams, they're not just trying to foul, they're trying to steal first, and if they can't steal, then they're trying to foul. So you're going to want the ball in your best ball handler's hands. And then he's got to go make free throws. And Gillespie did that, made some big pressure free throws. He finished with 22 points, despite shooting, I think, 3 of 9 from 3, but 9 of 9 from the line, 4 assists, 0 turnovers against one of the best defenses in college basketball, 4 years. Guys, this kid's special. He is. There's some special qualities to him. And what's really special about him is he's one of the best point guards in college basketball. He's also one of the better shooting guards in college basketball. If you'll notice, Tennessee plays him off the ball a good bit. He plays mostly on the ball. But there's times where Tennessee, basically the way Tennessee operates, everybody but Okpara probably can get the ball and bring it down the court as quickly as possible. They're just trying to push it. The first thing they're trying to do, push it. And if they can get an open lane or an open three immediately, they want to take it. But you see, if they get into front court and they don't have anything open, well, they'll pull it out and they'll run their offense. And when they do that, you can see who's really the one, who's really the two. And there's times where Gillespie's absolutely playing the two. And they talk about that because Rick Barnes says, we think he's one of the best point guards in the country. We also think he's one of the best shooting guards in the country. So you can, play Berg there, although Berg needs to play better. He hadn't had a great couple days. I think he'll be all right. Hadn't had a great couple days. Henderson, a kid who we've seen look really good at times, also look like a freshman at times. When he comes in there, he can play the one some. I mean, they've got other guys who can do that. I don't know if you want Abram doing that, but he's capable, I suppose, of doing that. But that guy down the stretch, man, that's a big moment. That's a big moment. And it's not like this kid hadn't played high-level basketball. He's from little old Greenville, Tennessee, but played at a great program at Belmont for a couple of years, then goes to Maryland. They make a run last year in the tournament. Now he's back home playing for Tennessee and, playing for the school he always wanted to play for. It's a great story. And long may it continue because it's in this era of guys moving around and transferring a couple times, you can get a little numb to it, a little jaded. But then you see someone like Gillespie who kind of takes a couple of different turns to get to the place he kind of always wanted to be. That version of it's a good story. And if Rick Barnes wants you out of the portal, dude, you're good. If Rick Barnes wants to go get you out of the portal, the way they evaluate guys, Polinsky, everybody on that staff, man, they don't miss in the portal, basically. It's not like they've been perfect, but for the most part, relative to the field, they haven't missed. That's been huge. But the other guys was huge last night, and you had to watch the game. You had to watch the game to see it. Sometimes you can look at, like, I can for instance, I can look at this box score right here in front of me. I can see Kingston Fleming's numbers. What are they? Let me move this so I can see it. 25 points, 3 assists, 2 steals, 4 rebounds, 10 of 15 from the floor, 3 of 4 from 3, 2 of 2 at the line. You can look at that and say, that's a good game. That anybody can see that. You look at Gillespie's lines. Good game. Look at Jalen Kerr. We're going to talk about him later. 13-7 off the bench. Hit some big shots. You can see that's a good game. Estrella off the bench, another good performance. You can see that. You look at Bishop Boswell and you see 10 points. That's pretty good for him. And you see 4 rebounds. That's pretty good for him. 3 assists, pretty good. 3 steals, really good. 1 block shot, good. What he did in 32 minutes on that floor last night was by leaps and bounds the best that he's ever looked as a Tennessee Volunteer. He became Jemai Meshach 2.0 right there. That's what he did. He went out there and had the same kind of impact that Jemai Meshach had on games. He took over that game at times. He was the most physical dude on that floor. 6'4" guard. Among all those towers, all those 260, 270-pound guys, 6'10 guys, 6'11 guys, 2 of the most physical teams in the country. He was the most physical player on the floor. Both ends. The disruption he caused on defense. He got 1 block and 3 steals. That does not even come close. That doesn't come close to describing the impact he had on that game. Kelvin Sampson said he was the best player on the floor. Rick Barnes said Boswell was probably the best player on the floor. That's 2 Hall of Fame coaches saying he was the best player on the floor. So guess what? He was the best player on the floor. That's what that means. And if he can play like this, he is a classic Rick Barnes player. He's classic. Excuse me. Classic Rick Barnes player. He impacts the game by how hard he plays defensively and how unselfish and connective, like a connective tissue he is on offense. He's kind of is he a 1, a 2, a 3? He's kind of somewhere in there, you know, maybe more of a 2/3. But he flies around defensively. Last season, somebody in the Tennessee program, it wasn't, I won't say who it was because the conversation was on background and I respect that, so I'll keep it there. But it was somebody on the staff who said, right when Boswell got there, he said, this kid already defends like an upperclassman at Tennessee. And if you know the way Tennessee talks about defense on a daily basis, how high that bar is, you just don't hear things like that. You almost never hear them say that a freshman plays defense the way they want an upperclassman to play defense at Tennessee. That's what kind of defensive player he is and what they think he can be. And offensively, yeah, he's growing. He's hit a couple big shots this season. Hit some huge pressure free throws late in the game yesterday too, by the way. Huge. Some of the biggest shots in the game were his 2 pressure free throws. And he's hit some threes early this year too. He's been selective, but he's taken his spots and he's connected. And as long as Rick Barnes is coaching basketball, there will be at least one player like Bishop Boswell on his team and in his starting lineup, basically. Pons, Meshach, Boswell. Now, these are his kind of guys. They set the culture on a daily basis with how hard they work. With the way they play defense, they set the tone. And that's why even I did it. Frankly, I did it too. And I'm cards on the table here. I did it too. I knew he'd be important to this team because of the way he is as a Rick Barnes type player. He's further along than I thought he was. I wasn't surprised that he was in the starting lineup to open the season because they reward guys who work like that, especially on defense. Those are their kinds of guys. Those guys are going to be in the lineup. But I thought, we'll see if he sticks there. I know he's going to play, but, and early on he looked a little frustrated at times with some minutes and other things. And I just, Tennessee's got a lot of depth on this team this season, so it's kind of hard to see exactly. They don't have enough kibble for the dogs that they have. He's got 200 minutes. That's not enough kibble for the dogs that he has. He's got 13 guys who could play. He hadn't had that before. And so some guys are going to get left out of the shuffle, like Dwayne Brown didn't play yesterday. There's going to be other games where other guys aren't going to play, or they're going to play 2 minutes in one game and 18 in the next. That's just how it is. But when Boswell got hurt, immediately Tennessee started talking about the priority was to get him back 100% because of how important he's going to be to this team. And so you think, okay, they see something. They see something. And they're right. They know their own guys. They're right. The impact that he had on that game, the physicality that he put on the floor in that game. I mean, just diving all over the place, getting in people's faces, throwing clean elbows, putting dudes on the deck with screens and stuff. Just the way he played the game, he bothered Houston in a way that Houston almost never gets bothered. And that's impressive, ladies and gentlemen. That's impressive. He was really, really good. Really, really, really good. It's a shame that Tennessee's not playing for the championship tonight. It's playing Kansas at 7 p.m. Eastern, which, again, hey, Tennessee-Kansas basketball, that ain't nothing to sniff at. That ain't nothing to turn your nose up at. Bill Self, Rick Barnes, those two uniforms, big game, draft picks on the floor. Sign me up for that. And it's unfortunate, though, that when Tennessee ended the game yesterday, it was on pace to play in the championship. But the way this tournament works, you got a bunch of teams in only 4 Final Four spots and only 2 spots in the title round. And they have their own formula for, points per win and all these other things. And Tennessee needed either Auburn to beat Michigan or Michigan to beat Auburn by 4 points or fewer. And then it needed Gonzaga to either lose to Maryland or to beat Maryland by less than 14 points. If either one of those things had happened, any of those things had happened, Tennessee's playing in the title game. Well, then naturally, Michigan beats Auburn by, I think, about 47,000 points. Stephen Pearl and those guys got a big old 100 spot put on them. And then Maryland kind of flirted with keeping it close against Maryland at times, but then Gonzaga, which I think is really, really good, really, really good this season. Physical, old, smart, efficient, classic Mark Few basketball. They kind of ran away from Maryland late. And so then you're left with Tennessee playing Kansas in the 3rd and 4th place game, despite Tennessee being undefeated, destroying Rutgers, and then beating Houston, which was the highest ranked team in the field. Couldn't ask for much more than that, right? You can't ask for more than that. But the way the tournament is structured, Tennessee's in the 3rd place game, which sucks because that's the difference of almost $1 million or so. That's tell you, last night there were a lot of Tennessee players who were they were big fans of Jacoby Gillespie's old Maryland Terrapins, really wanting that game to go a different way. It didn't. But Tennessee-Kansas is a heck of a game. Tennessee, I think, right now is a 5.5-point favorite. And there's a couple reasons for that. Kansas does have 2 losses. They're to Duke and North Carolina. They're fine. Kansas is good. Kansas is always good. It'd be better if Darren Peterson was out there, but he's not. The guy who I think will probably be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, he's been hurt. He's not going to be back for this tournament. He's not back today. So NBA scouts who wanted to see Nate Ament play Darren Peterson, they won't get that today. That's unfortunate for them, but there's plenty of tape on both those guys. They'll be all right. But that's a game I think Tennessee should win, but you never know. Kansas is good enough to go out there and beat you. It's Kansas. It's Bill Self. They can beat anybody, anytime, anywhere. So that should be a fun game tonight. But if Tennessee plays as physically as it's been playing, I think it can kind of impose itself on that Kansas team. Kansas got a couple guys hurt, including Peterson. It's tough to do that for a third time in 3 days. That's usually, and talking to coaches over the years, that's usually, every team's different, right? But usually back-to-back days aren't a big deal. Even if you go to overtime, they're not the worst. The problem is the third day in a row. That's when college guys aren't really used to that necessarily. It's different. That's where you can wear down a little bit. But with all the depth Tennessee has, Gillespie played 38 minutes yesterday. Ament played 24. Carey played 22. Abram 19. Berg 7. Estrella 13. Phillips 14. Boswell 32, but he's a physical guy. That looks pretty good. I think physically that looks pretty good. And Dwayne Brown played 0. So if you need him to go out there and occupy space and bulldoze some dudes, he's capable of doing that. So we'll see. They got to go out there and play well. I don't think they can play poorly and win that game, but if they play well, I think they'll be in pretty good shape there. Should be. They're favored for a reason. And last night, I think what was Houston, a 2.5, 3.5 point favorite, something like that. Vegas was pretty close on that game too. Just got the result wrong. But the margin, they were kind of right on the money there. Jalen Carey is another guy we need to talk about. Jalen Carey, I've said this all year long. It's going to be an experience. He was this way at Vanderbilt. He's going to be this way for Tennessee. He will have games like yesterday where he's got 13-7. He'll even have a game. He might have a 20-20 game this season. He could have a 15-15 game this season. And then he'll have a couple games where he's playing about 4 minutes, not doing much, and he's not having an impact. The Jalen Carey experience is an experience. But yesterday he had 3 turnovers and Rick Barnes kept him out there, so that's how well he was playing. Normally, a big guy out there committing multiple turnovers, dude, you're sitting. But he was playing so effectively that Barnes let him roll. And I think he made the right decision there. Carey's going to have moments where he drives you nuts. And honestly, it's funny to say this about somebody who's in much better shape than I've ever been in my entire life. I don't think Carey's in the same shape as most of that Tennessee team. He just kind of came in the portal this offseason and just kind of physically, as big and strong as he is, he's not quite as sort of toned and fit as most of the other guys on that team are. And I think there's times where you can tell, like he moves, he looks a little sluggish. His shifts aren't always as long. But when he's in there, he's a man mover. Guys bounce off him like they're on, like he's a trampoline. And the way that he can play, when he's having a good game, that's good news for Tennessee. What's good about him, too, is that you can see it. You put him out there, he's going to let you know pretty quick what kind of day it's going to be. And Tennessee's got enough depth that if it's not a good day, he'll keep rolling. You just get him right on the bench, he's fine. Just roll somebody else. But if he's got it going on, he's going to have a good game. I liked the intelligence that Tennessee played with, too, yesterday. The way that you could tell, especially early on, Gillespie got a lot of his damage late. He hit some shots, but if you go back to the Rutgers game and what Rutgers coach said after that game, he said what everybody else says about this Tennessee team, that its size and physicality and depth is going to be a problem for people. But he also said, kind of what the general game plan is going to be. Now, some will press to do it. Some will play matchup zones. Some will just go full court man. Some will maybe do zone type stuff. They'll trap. People will have their own kinds of defense and their own kind of ways they're going to try to do it. But what teams are going to try to do, they cannot let Gillespie and Ament both go off. If Gillespie and Ament both go off, Tennessee is winning the game, almost always. So what they're going to do is try to take at least one of them out of the game. They're going to try to get him in foul trouble. And Nate Ament keeps taking the bait on this, and he's going to have to learn. I've been saying this for a month. He's got to learn. He's got to learn. But they're going to try to take one or both of those guys out of the game. Both of them, probably that's tough to do. You can see how good Houston's defense is. They still couldn't do it. They could limit Ament, but eventually Gillespie, the dam kind of burst there. But that's what teams are going to do. And Rutgers coach said, he said, if both those guys go off, you have no chance. You have to contain at least one of them. And Houston has enough guys physically where they said, you know what? We think we can contain both those jokers. They tried. And for a lot of the game, they were doing it. And that will be, when that happens, that could be an issue for Tennessee. There's no way around that. They don't have another scorer who can consistently, day in, day out, yet score the ball the way those guys can. I think the closest they probably have is J.P. Estrella. And when those guys, if teams are really hedging, really shifting toward Ament and Gillespie, and they're doing everything they can to limit those guys, well then, I mean, you can either do a two-man game with Ament and with Gillespie, or you can put them on different sides. You can space them out, and then you can leave Estrella on the block, and they're not going to put two guys on Estrella because they can't, because they're going to have to go. They got to keep it. If you leave Ament, 3-ball in your eye. If you leave Gillespie, 3-ball in your eye. So you got to go out and get those guys. And Estrella one-on-one, I think he can eat against just about anybody. You get him the ball in the post in that situation, he's either going to turn around and score, go through the guy and score, or if teams try to run at him with multiple guys, he's going to find the open guy and he can pass it. He sees over the defense. He can hit the pass for a guy who has to be open somewhere. Remember, if you put two guys on one guy in basketball, somebody's open. I'm pretty dumb, and I know that. 5 guys here, 5 guys there. If I put 2 guys on one guy over here, guess what? Somebody's getting open. And I think Tennessee eventually did realize that they went to Carey, they went to Estrella, and those guys got some inside buckets, and that kind of opened up the floor a little bit. That's what I like about the Tennessee team. It's always going to be a challenge. Excuse me. Justin, say some words here for a second. I got to get a sip of water over here.
Oh man, I don't know what you expect.
It's not bourbon in here. Don't worry, guys. It's
I don't
definitely
know.
not holiday bourbon.
Yeah, there's a time for that. It just may not be here. But
Well, hey, this is a metal jug. You can't see, but no, I think it's always going to be an issue for Tennessee, or a challenge, when Ament and Gillespie, neither one of them they're off to a slow start. They're not hitting shots. That's always going to present plan B for Tennessee, right? Plan B, plan C, yada, yada. But the amount of options they have on this team, and I think other ones they could have. Berg has not played well this week. He needs to get going again. But I like him as a player. He hadn't had a great week. I think everybody at this point likes Amari Abram as a player. He hit a huge 3 yesterday in the second half. Huge 3. I think it was in the second half. Those guys can score. You can dump the ball in to Carey and Estrella, though. And big Felix Okpara, the most dangerous three-point shooter in all the land. The Nigerian sniper, 6'11", out there cannon 3 after 3. Hit another one yesterday. I think he's almost like 70% the past 2 seasons at Tennessee now from 3, or maybe more than 70%. It's crazy. The big man's got touch. I don't think he's going to shoot multiple per game. I wish he would. But I don't think he's going to, because he's going to spend a lot of his time down there on the block where he's one of the most physical forces in the country. But those big guys, the way they can pass to each other, the way they play off of each other, the way that they open up space for others, the hard screens they set, Phillips getting in that dunker spot and finishing lobs, crashing the glass, making the other big man sweat every second he's on the floor. I like the look of this team a lot. I do. Now, do I wish that it had maybe one more really potent perimeter shooter, like consistent perimeter, like reliable perimeter flamethrower? Yes, I wish it had one more of those guys. Do I wish that maybe there was just a little bit more experience behind Gillespie at point guard? Yes, I do. But you're not going to have a perfect college basketball team. You're just not. It's not. Even in the portal era, you can get close because you can target very specific needs. But at the end of the day, you got 13 scholarships, and you're using them usually on 18 to 22-year-old guys. So you're not – things aren't going to work out the way you want them to all the time. That's just not how this works. And guys get hurt. And so there's never a perfect roster. But what Tennessee has now is a really, really good basketball team. And a team that can hurt you in a lot of different ways. A team where the depth chart is so stacked, or so deep anyways, I should say. It's called the depth chart. It should be deep, right? They're not all deep, though. Some depth charts are baby pools. Tennessee's got a lot of guys. But when you have that many guys, if everybody's pulling on the same page, it's great. Just got to keep everybody on the same page. But what they can do now is Rick Barnes demands defense at a certain level. And when you have this many guys, you can if a guy loafs one time, bench him. If a guy loafs one time defensively, maybe not Gillespie or Ament, they may have different rules. But everybody else, they loaf. They can sit for a while. They can sit for a whole game if you want to teach them a lesson. So why are they defending like they're rabid dogs just let off of a leash? Because they have to. If they don't do it, they're not playing. And that little bit of an edge, combined with more depth, means you can keep throwing bodies at even a team like Houston. And you're not going to break Houston. You don't break teams like Houston. But you can make them, you can bend them a little bit. You can take the edge off of them a little bit. And you can beat them because you can wear them down a little bit. Now, that game, if it had kept going for another 5 minutes, I don't know what would have happened because Houston was coming back every single time. That team, I mean, it was honestly like, like in the movie where the bad guy, basically it's like, okay, how are you still alive? Like, seriously. Dude, you've been shot, you've been thrown off a building, you've been set on fire. Fat man and little boy were dropped in your front yard. You were decapitated. You were drawn and quartered. How are you still alive? Who would write this? This is stupid. That's what Houston was. By the end of that game, the last 3 or 4 minutes, Houston took just a series of kill shots that absolutely would have buried most people. And they came back every time. I mean, that's those kind of teams, man, you play them in the postseason, dude, you're usually going to lose. Teams that come fight back that hard every time, those teams that are just never done. Kelvin Sampson's such a good basketball coach, and the way they do things, I think a lot of that program, if you can't tell. But Tennessee withstood that, and Tennessee kept punching back. Tennessee hit pressure free throws. Tennessee, you leave Gillespie, he hits a pressure shot. Amen, didn't have a great game. Bang on at the line all night. Carey scoring inside in big moments. Like they were making, and some of the shots Houston was making were tough. Now, one of them was a guy gets by you on a drive, and you do the smart thing by not fouling him to give up the M1, so you give him a layup. But that's a smart defensive play. Either foul him so hard that the shot can't go up, or let him go. And Tennessee withstood that. That was impressive. That kind of game, that's the kind of game that by the end of the season moves you up an entire seed line. That's the kind of win that if this season, and again, the SEC is brutal, so who knows what's going to happen. But let's say Tennessee's looking like a 3 seed. Well, that Houston win maybe makes it a 2. You're beating one of the best teams in the country on a neutral floor. That moves you up a seed line. It just does. So if you were a 4, maybe you're a 3. You're a 5, maybe you're a 4. You're a 2, maybe you're the final 1 seed. And it really helps that you can maybe be a high enough seed that you're not facing Houston until the Final Four. Because that team's going to get better too. Tennessee should keep getting better. Tennessee, hey, Boswell just came back from injury. Estrella just back from injury. He's going to get in better shape. Gillespie's going to get more comfortable with this offense. Felix Okpara is growing leaps and bounds every time he gets on the floor these days offensively. He had a quiet start to the season, figuring out how to play with these guys. He's got it now. You would hope that by the end of the season, Jalen Carey's in better shape. I don't know if that's a guarantee, but I mean, normally during the season, you're playing every day, you're running every day, you're lifting most days. They're feeding you, so they know what you're eating unless you go home. They can usually get you in pretty good shape. And I think Carey's the kind of guy that being around as many of these guys as he is every day, you would hope that sort of by osmosis, he kind of becomes more like them. Because as a player, if he could do that, man, that guy's a player. That guy's a player. He just needs to get in elite shape and completely buy in every day. If he does that, look out. Mo Abrams, a guy that does a lot of good stuff. I think he's going to be there all season long doing good stuff. I think he's going to have some big games and then quiet games. But, man, and there's things to fix. Amon's got to stop with the foul trouble. He's committing way too many fouls that are way too obvious and way too soft. 2 hands on a guy on the perimeter, whistle every time. Little forearm in the back. Any big man worth anything is going to know how to flop and sell that, and he's getting that call every time. That's a push-off every time. They're going to call it every time. 2 hands on space, foul every time. They're never going to let that go. Maybe in the final seconds of a game they would let that go. But that's usually one of the easiest fouls to call. He's got to stop doing that. Or else he's going to be in foul trouble in other big games, and maybe Tennessee wouldn't be able to overcome it like it did yesterday. That stuff's got to stop happening. And I think it will. He's really young. He's really smart. He's really talented. He cares a lot. And he wants to be one of the first picks off the board in the NBA draft. So he's got motivation too. If nothing else, that would be enough motivation. But he's not wired like that. He's thinking about the team. He's wired the way he is, or else he wouldn't be at Tennessee, because no matter how talented you are, Rick Barnes, at this point in his life, he doesn't want guys like that, and he's not going to recruit them. If he sees stuff he doesn't like, he's like, I'm old, I'm not dealing with this. I'm just not. So he doesn't. And it's impressive. But the way this team, where it could be, been saying all year, there are not that many teams better than this one. And I believe that. Now, are they as good as the very best? I don't know, but Houston nearly won a national title last year, guys. They were right there to win that game. They were right there to win a natty. And they brought a lot of those guys back. And they did lose a couple guys, But they also brought back a lot of guys, a lot of starters from that team. And they got 2 freshmen who are going to be lottery picks. You saw how good Flemings was last night. My goodness. And Cenac, Tennessee did pretty well on him. Got him in foul trouble too. But the way that Tennessee, the things it can do, like this roster is not so foolproof that it's not going to have bad games here and there. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. People lose college basketball games. Indiana, in the 70s, last team to really go unbeaten. It just doesn't happen. You're going to lose some. And I think it usually helps you to lose some because you learn lessons when you lose if you're wired the right way. But we'll see tonight how things go. That's a big game again. That's, hey, are these guys a little bit down in the dumps because there's about $1 million less at stake for them tonight? Sure, I would be. Sure, Justin over there would be. Somebody gives you you're like, hey, you could be playing for $1 million or you could be playing for significantly less than that. Which would you rather do? I'd rather play for $1 million. I don't know about you. I would. But it's still a big game. And there's still some money at stake. So I think they're going to go out there. They're going to play hard. They need to. We'll see how fatigued they are. I think they're deeper than Kansas. But Kansas is good. And it's basically going to be a road game because Kansas fans are nuts and they're everywhere. There's a bunch of Tennessee fans out there in Vegas. I guarantee you there's more Kansas fans, especially because Tennessee football season hadn't ended. If this was the postseason, it might be kind of close, actually, depending on where the location was. Not in the Midwest, but anywhere else, it might be kind of similar. More so than you would think. I guarantee you that. Tennessee basketball fans are not to be undersold. They are much better than people think. But it usually happens when football season ends, then it really kind of gets going. Then that's when they'll travel more. So it's going to be basically, I think, a road game in a lot of ways for Tennessee tonight. But hey, it's better than playing at Fog Allen, which is the best place I've ever seen a college basketball game. I love Food City Center. I think it's really, honestly, one of the 10 best places in the country to watch college basketball. But if I'm being honest, the Fog's the coolest place I've ever seen a college basketball game. I've even seen a game in Cameron. I thought Fog was cooler. Might feel like a hot take. I've been to Cameron Indoor, covered a game there. Been to the Fog, covered a game there. The Fog was cooler. I just did. They're both awesome, but still. Big game for Tennessee tonight. Big game for football. And tomorrow, I imagine, for the mailbags, we'll have a lot of football and basketball questions. But again, guys, if it's a baseball question, if it's a non-sports question, you want life advice, I will try, and I will probably give you bad life advice. But I'll give it. There's very few things I won't discuss on this program, and you know what they are. Anything else on the table. Go to the socials, Wes Rucker TBA on Twitter/X. Go to Wes Rucker on Blue Sky. Or, you can answer them to the 10 sports accounts, too, if you'd rather do that. Go send the questions, and I'll be in here with Mad Dog, and we'll be answering them. And we'll have fresh content for you right there at 3 Eastern Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. Fresh content, 3 Eastern on Black Friday. We'll have the podcast apps stacked up for I know a lot of y'all are out there traveling for the holidays. We'll have those stacked up for you in the queue to be able to go through those. And normally it's not just going to be me talking in here. The way that it's been worked out with the holiday week is that it's usually, for the most part, been just me. Normally, trust me, it's not going to be a fireside chat with me talking for an hour. Eventually, and pretty soon, there will be guests in here either remotely or here in the studio with us. So it's not just going to be me talking the whole time. I don't even want to hear that. I don't at all. You think I like going back and editing these things and seeing this face, this shiny forehead, listening to these gray hairs?
I love listening to you talk, Wes. That's why I'm in here.
I think. Well, you're in here because you're contractually obligated to be in here, I believe. This is the real answer. But regardless, we're going to have a lot of fun stuff for you over the next couple of days. If your questions are fun, we're going to have fun with the responses. And if you don't have enough good questions, I'm just going to sit here and sing a cappella. Put on a one-man show like Dancing with the Knoxville. Actually, Dancing with the Knoxville Stars wasn't a one-man show. We had like a whole team of people. But I'll sit here fidgeting, breaking my pen, my favorite pen like I just did. That's a bummer of a way to end the show, Justin. What a bummer of a way to end a show. Bummer of a way. My favorite pen, man. Do you think that what have I done to deserve this?
You talked for an hour. That's enough.
And I didn't let anybody else talk, and that's what happens.
Exactly, that's how it goes.
What a bummer of a way to end the show. My favorite pen. Oh well. Now I guess I know what I'm going to be asking. What I'm looking for on Black Friday now. I guess.
Nice new pen.
Although, if you're listening out there, makers of the Zebra G3 550 0.7 millimeter blue ink, if you're out there, you want a good rate on some ads, hit up your boy over here. Guys, thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back Friday. We'll have mailbags for you. We'll obviously have a lot more to talk about Tennessee Vanderbilt football that we didn't get to today because we had to talk about basketball because there was a lot. That's a huge basketball win. That's why that was most of today. So we still got some notes to go over for the next couple of days, and we will do that. But for now, send those mailbag questions in, and we'll answer them here in about 23 hours. We'll see y'all tomorrow.